My name is Detective Marcus Hale, and I need to tell you about the Ashford case before the official report buries the truth under legal jargon and political pressure. Some investigations haunt you because of their brutality, others because of their injustice. This one haunts me because I still don't know if I solved it, or if I became part of the cover-up. 20 years wearing this badge taught me that the rich play by different rules, but Dorian Ashford's death taught me that some of them don't play by any rules at all, not even death itself. It started on a Thursday morning when Captain Reeves called me into his office with that look he gets when someone powerful has made a phone call. The Ashford family wanted me specifically, he said. Dorian Ashford, the gold mining tycoon worth an estimated $42 billion, had been found dead in his study 3 days prior. Natural causes, the family physician claimed. Heart failure at 73. But now, on the morning of his funeral, they wanted a detective present. Insurance purposes, they said. Liability concerns. The words felt rehearsed, hollow. I drove up to the Ashford estate in the hills overlooking the city, where old money sits behind iron gates and watches the world scramble below. The mansion sprawled across 15 acres of manicured perfection, all white columns and marble steps that seemed designed to make you feel small. Security waved me through, after checking my credentials twice. The funeral was set to begin at noon. I arrived at 10. Vivian Ashford met me at the entrance, Dorian's widow, dressed in black silk that probably cost more than my car. She was 58, but looked 40, that kind of timeless beauty that money buys through the right surgeons and the best creams. Her handshake was cold, her smile practiced. Detective Hale, thank you for coming. I know this seems unusual, but with so many guests, so much media attention, we simply wanted someone official present. You understand? I didn't understand, but I nodded. She led me through hallways lined with portraits of Ashford ancestors, men with hard eyes who'd built their fortune pulling gold from the earth with blood and ambition. Dorian's portrait hung at the end, larger than the others. He stared out from the canvas with the confidence of someone who'd never heard the word no. The service will be in the garden, Vivian said, her heels clicking against marble. Dorian loved the garden. He said it reminded him of the surface operations at his first mine. All that careful cultivation hiding what's buried beneath. She paused at a window overlooking the grounds. We're expecting 300 guests and senators, CEOs, foreign dignitaries. Dorian's reach was extensive. When exactly did he die, Mrs. Ashford? Monday evening, around 9, I found him in his study. Her voice didn't waver, but her fingers tightened on her clutch. He was at his desk, just slumped forward. The doctor said it was massive cardiac arrest. Instant. He didn't suffer. And the funeral is today because Dorian planned it this way. She turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw something real behind the mask. Fear, maybe, or guilt. He left very specific instructions. If he died, the funeral was to be held within 72 hours. No autopsy, no delays. He was obsessive about control, detective, even in death. Before I could press further, a young man appeared in the hallway, mid-30s, with Dorian's sharp jawline but softer eyes. Mother, they're asking about the seating arrangements. Detective Hale, this is my stepson, Nathan Ashford, Dorian's youngest. Nathan extended his hand, and I felt the calluses of someone who actually worked with his hands. Unusual for this family. Thanks for being here, detective. I know it's probably weird having a cop at a funeral, but nothing about this family is normal. He tried to smile, but it died quickly. I run the South American operations, spent the last week flying back from Peru when I heard about Dad. My condolences, I said, watching his face. Were you close? No one was close to Dorian Ashford, Nathan said quietly. Not even Dorian. Vivian's expression hardened. Nathan, please, not today. When would be appropriate, Mother? When the lawyers read the will tomorrow? When we find out which of us he decided to destroy from beyond the grave? Nathan's voice cracked with something raw. He controlled everything. Our money, our careers, our lives. And now we're supposed to stand there and pretend we're devastated? Enough. Vivian's whisper cut like glass. We have guests arriving. Nathan left and I watched the tension in Vivian's shoulders. Complicated relationship? Dorian had complicated relationships with everyone, Detective. It's what made him successful. And unbearable. She checked her watch, a Patek Philippe that cost more than I'd make in 5 years. I should prepare. The service begins soon. Please, make yourself comfortable. Observe whatever you need to observe. I spent the next hour watching the guests arrive. Black limousines and Bentleys formed a funeral procession of wealth. I recognized a senator, 2 Supreme Court justices, the CEOs of 3 Fortune 500 companies. They all wore the same expression, polite grief masking calculation. Dorian's death had created a vacuum in the gold market, and everyone was here to see who'd fill it. The Ashford children gathered near the rose garden. Besides Nathan, there was Sienna, the eldest at 45, sharp-featured and sharper-tongued, who ran the family's investment portfolio. She stood apart from the others, speaking intensely on her phone, her free hand gesturing aggressively. Then there was Garrett, 42, the middle child, soft around the edges in a way his siblings weren't, managing the company's charitable foundation, the acceptable position for the son who couldn't handle real business. I positioned myself where I could observe them all. Sienna finished her call and approached Nathan with predatory purpose. I know what you're thinking, and the answer is no. The Peru operation stays under corporate control. Dad promised me autonomy 6 months ago, Nathan said. Dad promised everyone everything. That's how he kept us fighting each other instead of him. Sienna's smile was vicious. The will reading is tomorrow. Maybe he left you something, maybe he left you nothing. Either way, I control the board votes. You're just like him, Nathan said softly. Ruthless, empty. And you're weak. Just like our mother was before she had the good sense to die. Nathan's hand clenched into a fist, but Garrett appeared between them, his voice soothing, practiced. Please, not here, not today. Whatever we feel about Dad, we owe it to these people to show unity. We don't owe anyone anything, Sienna hissed, least of all them. They came to network, not mourn, just like we're performing grief, not feeling it. At exactly noon, they opened the casket for final viewing. Dorian Ashford lay in state, dressed in one of his signature gray suits, hands folded across his chest. I'd seen plenty of bodies, but something felt wrong about this one. The makeup was too perfect, the positioning too staged. I moved closer, pretending to pay respects while studying his face. The skin looked waxy, artificial, but then morticians work miracles with the right chemicals. The funeral began with speeches I barely heard. My attention kept drifting to the family. Vivian dabbed at dry eyes. Sienna stood rigid, checking her watch. Nathan stared at the casket with an expression somewhere between grief and relief. And Garrett kept glancing toward the house, nervous like he was waiting for something. Then I heard it, a sound that didn't belong. The low rumble of jet engines spooling up. I turned toward the private airstrip at the edge of the property, maybe half a mile away, partially hidden by trees. Dorian's Gulfstream G650 sat on the tarmac, and as I watched, its engines flared to life. The whine grew louder, cutting through the minister's eulogy. Guests started murmuring, turning to look. Vivian's face went pale. Nathan's eyes widened with something like terror. Sienna's phone was already out, frantically dialing. What the hell? Someone whispered behind me. The Gulfstream began rolling, picking up speed. Within seconds, it was airborne, climbing steeply, banking east toward the mountains. 300 people watched Dorian Ashford's private jet fly away, while his body lay in a casket 20 feet from me. Chaos erupted. Security rushed toward the airstrip. Vivian collapsed into a chair. The minister stopped speaking, lost. I grabbed the head of security, a former Marine named Rutger. Who's piloting that aircraft? I don't know, sir. The plane was locked down. No one had clearance to approach it. Someone just flew it away. That's impossible. We have cameras on every inch of that strip. I'll pull the footage. But even as he said it, I knew something was deeply wrong. I felt it in my gut, that instinct you develop after 2 decades of investigating crimes. This wasn't a theft. This was a message. I found Nathan standing alone, watching the jet disappear into the clouds. That was your father's plane. The Midnight Phoenix, he called it. Flew it himself sometimes. He loved being at the controls. Said it was the only place where he couldn't hear people asking for money or making excuses. Nathan's voice was hollow. Who would take it now? You tell me who had access. The pilots. The maintenance crew, Dad's personal assistant. But they're all here, I saw them. He turned to me and I saw real fear in his eyes. Detective, there's something you need to know about my father. I'm listening. He was paranoid. Not just careful, paranoid. He had cameras everywhere, encrypted servers, redundant systems. He trusted no one. The jet has a biometric lock on the cockpit. Retinal scan and fingerprint. Only he could fly it solo. Nathan's hands were shaking. No one else could have gotten into that cockpit, not without his eyes and his fingerprints. The words hung between us like smoke. What are you saying? I'm saying that either someone found a way to fake my father's biometrics or... He couldn't finish. Or what? Or he wasn't in that casket. I left Nathan and went straight to the security office. Rutger had the footage pulled up on 4 screens. We watched in silence as the timeline unfolded. The airstrip had been empty since Tuesday. No movement. No vehicles. The Gulfstream sat undisturbed through Wednesday, through Thursday morning, through the first hour of the funeral. Then, at 11:47 a.m., 13 minutes before the plane took off, the camera feeds went black. Power failure, I asked. Rutger shook his head. No, look at the timestamp. They were shut off remotely. Someone accessed our system and killed the feeds. Can you trace it? Already trying, but whoever did this knew our protocols. They came in through a back door I didn't even know existed. Show me the last clear image before the blackout. He rewound the footage. At 11:46 and 30 seconds, the Gulfstream sat alone on the tarmac, sealed and silent. At 11:46 and 59 seconds, the screens went dark. When they came back online at 12:15 p.m., the plane was gone. 15 minutes, I said. Someone had 15 minutes to get to that plane, bypass the biometric locks, start the engines and take off. Is that even possible? Theoretically, no. The startup sequence alone takes 8 minutes. Add the biometric authentication, the pre-flight checks. You'd need at least 20 minutes, and that's if you know what you're doing. Unless the plane was already prepared, already unlocked. Rutger met my eyes. Then it would have to have been done before the blackout. But we have footage of the plane through the entire funeral. No one went near it, except during the 15 minutes we can't see. Detective, are you suggesting someone was waiting inside that plane? For 3 days? In a locked aircraft? I didn't answer because I didn't have an answer that made sense. Instead, I said, I need to see Dorian Ashford's body. The mortuary had already closed the casket and loaded it into the hearse for transport to the family mausoleum. I had Rutger stop the procession, flashed my badge, and demanded they open it again. The funeral director protested, but Vivian appeared. Her composure cracked. Open it! They did. Dorian Ashford lay exactly as before, hands folded, face peaceful. I leaned close, studying him. The skin was cool, waxy. I pressed gently on his forearm. The flesh gave but slowly, more like silicone than dead tissue. Who prepared the body? I asked. Dr. Edmund Price, Vivian said. He was Dorian's personal physician for 30 years. He pronounced the death and handled all the arrangements personally. Where is he now? He left during the commotion with the jet, said he wasn't feeling well. I pulled out my phone and called dispatch. I need an APB on Dr. Edmund Price. Consider him a person of interest. I gave them the description Vivian provided, then turned back to the body. I'm ordering an autopsy. No, Vivian said sharply. Dorian's will expressly forbids it. He wanted to be cremated immediately after the funeral. It's already arranged. I don't care what the will says. That plane taking off changed everything. This is a criminal investigation now. Investigation of what? My husband died of a heart attack. A plane was stolen. They're unrelated events. Are they? Because your stepson just told me the jet has biometric locks that only Dorian could bypass. Vivian's face went chalk white. That's not possible. A lot of impossible things have happened today, Mrs. Ashford. And until I understand them, nobody is cremating anything. I had the body transported to the county morgue under police custody. Dr. Sarah Chen, our best medical examiner, agreed to fast-track the autopsy. While I waited for results, I went back to the Ashford estate and did what I should have done first. I searched Dorian's study. The room was exactly as Vivian described. Massive mahogany desk, walls lined with books and gold bars displayed in museum cases, windows overlooking the mountains where his first mines had made him rich. On the desk, a glass of bourbon sat half empty, a legal document face down beside it. I flipped the document over. It was a codicil to Dorian's will, dated Monday evening, the night he died. The handwriting was shaky but legible. It stripped Sienna of her voting rights in the company and transferred them to Nathan. It removed Garrett from the foundation and gave control to a conservation nonprofit. It reduced Vivian's inheritance to a trust that paid out monthly, stripping her access to liquid assets. In short, it destroyed all of them. At the bottom, Dorian had written a note. They thought I didn't know. They thought I was blind and stupid. But I always knew. And now they'll pay for what they did to Evelyn. Evelyn. I pulled out my phone and searched the name with Ashford. The results made my blood run cold. Evelyn Ashford, Dorian's first wife and mother to Nathan, Sienna, and Garrett, died 15 years ago in a riding accident on the estate. Official ruling. Accidental death. She'd been thrown from her horse and struck her head on a rock. But conspiracy theories had swirled for years. Evelyn had been filing for divorce. She'd threatened to expose financial irregularities in Ashford Gold Corporation. Then she died, conveniently, and the divorce disappeared with her. I called Rutger. I need everything you have on Evelyn Ashford's death. Security logs, statements, camera footage if it exists. That was before my time, but I'll check the archives. While he searched, I went through Dorian's desk drawers. They were mostly mundane. Pens, notepads, business cards. But in the bottom drawer, locked, I found something that made my investigation take a darker turn. A file labeled Phoenix Protocol. Inside were blueprints of the Gulf Stream, but modified. Someone had installed a secondary flight control system, something I didn't recognize. Beside it, a note in Dorian's handwriting. If they kill me, I'll fly one last time. They'll watch me ascend and know they failed. My phone buzzed. Dr. Chen. Marcus, you need to get down here, now. I made it to the morgue in 20 minutes. Dr. Chen met me in the hallway, her expression grim. That's not Dorian Ashford. What? It's not him. It's an incredibly sophisticated fake. Synthetic skin over a silicone framework. The internal structure is there. Synthetic bones, organ approximations, but it's not human. Someone went to extraordinary lengths to make this look real. The fingerprints match Ashford's. The dental work matches. But it's a fabrication. A decoy. The world tilted. How long would it take to make something like this? Months, maybe a year. You'd need detailed scans, advanced 3D printing, artistic skill. We're talking millions of dollars and extremely specialized knowledge. So Dorian Ashford planned this. He knew someone was going to kill him, and he prepared a fake body to take his place. That's what it looks like. But Marcus, here's the really disturbing part. She led me to the examination table where the fake body lay opened. Come look at this. Inside the chest cavity, where a heart should be, was a small metal container. Dr. Chen opened it carefully. Inside, packed in refrigerant gel, were several vials of blood. I tested it, she said quietly. AB negative. Dorian Ashford's blood type. It's human blood. And the DNA matches samples we have on file for Ashford. It's his blood collected recently, maybe days ago. He preserved his own blood and hid it inside a fake body. Not just preserved it. Look at the container. It has a thermal regulator, a timer, and a release mechanism. This was designed to keep the blood at body temperature and dispense it at a specific time. The implications crashed over me. The jet, the blood on the controls. That's what Rutger said when I called him from the car. They boarded the Gulf Stream when it landed in Nevada. There was fresh blood on the pilot's controls. Someone set this up very carefully, Dr. Chen said. Dorian Ashford wanted everyone to think he came back from the dead and flew away. But why? That was the question that burned through me as I drove back to the estate. Why fake your death, plant your own blood, and stage an impossible escape? The answer hit me as I pulled through the gates. Because he wanted his killers to reveal themselves through their reaction. I found them in the library. All 4 of them, Vivienne, Sienna, Nathan, and Garrett, sitting in silence like prisoners awaiting sentencing. They looked up when I entered, and I saw guilt written across every face. You all knew, I said quietly. You knew that wasn't Dorian in the casket. Sienna spoke first, her voice brittle. We suspected, but we couldn't be sure. And if we were wrong, if we accused him of faking his death and he was actually dead, the legal complications would be… Legal complications, I cut her off. Your father stages the most elaborate hoax I've ever seen, and you're worried about legal complications. He was paranoid and cruel, Vivienne said, tears finally coming. He lived to torment us, even death wouldn't stop him. So you tried to stop him first. I pulled out the codicil, the Phoenix Protocol file. He was going to destroy you, change the will, expose whatever you did to Evelyn, and you decided to kill him before he could. Nathan stood abruptly. We didn't kill him. We talked about it. God help us, we talked about it. But we didn't do it. Then who did? Garrett's voice came out as barely a whisper. No one. Because he's not dead. He's out there somewhere, watching us, waiting to see what we do. This is his final game, his ultimate control. I thought about the blood, the biometric locks, the impossible timeline. On Monday night, did any of you see him? I did, Vivienne said. We fought. He showed me the codicil, laughed at my reaction. He said after 15 years of pretending to love him, I'd spend the rest of my life on an allowance. Then he dismissed me like a servant. I saw him around 8, Sienna added. He told me I was too much like him, that I'd destroy the company just like he'd built it, with blood and ruthlessness. He said he was giving my power to Nathan because Nathan still had a soul. Nathan looked away. He called me at midnight. I was already in Peru. He said he was proud of me for getting as far away as possible, that I was the only one who'd escaped, and he respected that. He said he loved me. First time he'd said it in 30 years. Garrett? I prompted. I never saw him that night, but he emailed me. Just 3 words. You knew, coward, so that's all. Garrett's hands shook. He figured it out. 15 years ago, I saw Mother's horse. Someone had cut the girth strap halfway through, just enough that it would break under stress. I saw it, and I didn't say anything. I let them rule it an accident because I was afraid of what investigating would do to the family. The pieces were assembling, but the picture made no sense. So Dorian knew one of you, or all of you, killed his first wife. He spent 15 years gathering evidence, planning his revenge. But instead of going to the police, he fakes his own death and stages a resurrection to torture you with uncertainty. That sounds like something he'd do, Sienna said bitterly. He'd want us to suffer, to wonder every day if he's watching, to never feel safe in our own homes or our own skins. I pulled out my phone and called Rutger, the jet that landed in Nevada. Did anyone deplane? No, sir. The tower reported the landing was rough. Emergency crews responded, but by the time they reached the aircraft, it was empty. Whoever piloted it had already left. But detective, they found something else. A parachute pack missing from the emergency supplies. The plane was on autopilot when it landed. Someone jumped out somewhere over the desert. I hung up and looked at the 4 people in front of me. Dorian Ashford is alive. He piloted that jet, jumped somewhere over Nevada and vanished. The blood was his own, left as proof. The fake body was a stand-in. He's gone. Then we're not safe, Vivienne whispered. He'll come back. He'll make us pay for what we did. Did you kill Evelyn? Silence. Then Sienna laughed. A sound like breaking glass. Of course we did. Not directly. We hired someone to sabotage the horse, all four of us. We were tired of being pawns in their divorce war. We wanted it over, so we made sure she'd have an accident that couldn't be traced back to us. And we've lived with that guilt for 15 years. Why are you confessing now? Because there's no point hiding anymore, Nathan said. He knows. He's always known. This whole thing, the fake death, the jet, the blood, it's his way of telling us that we'll never be free. He's out there, and he's hunting us. I should have arrested them right there. Conspiracy to commit murder, even 15 years old, carried serious charges. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the exhaustion in their eyes, the way they looked like animals caught in a trap they'd spent half their lives building. Or maybe it was the bigger question that burned in my mind. If Dorian wanted revenge, why not just turn you in? Why this elaborate scheme? Garrett met my eyes. Because he's not interested in legal justice. He wants us to destroy ourselves, to turn on each other, to live in fear until we crack. That's what he does. That's what he's always done. I left them there and walked out into the garden where the funeral had been held hours before. The chairs were gone, the flowers already wilting. In the distance, the empty airstrip mocked me with its impossible story. My phone buzzed. Another call from Rutger. Detective, we found Dr. Price. His car went off a cliff on Highway 38. He's dead. Looks like he lost control of the vehicle, but the wreckage is consistent with, well, with someone running him off the road. Dorian, I said. That's what I'm thinking. Price helped stage the fake death. He was a loose end. I stood there in the gathering darkness, trying to piece together a truth that kept slipping through my fingers like sand. Dorian Ashford had faked his death, framed his family for revealing their own guilt, and disappeared into the desert sky. The blood on the jet controls was real. His DNA confirmed it. But the timeline was impossible. The body was fake. The escape defied logic. Unless everything I thought I knew about the sequence of events was wrong. I called Dr. Chen. The blood you found in the fake body. How fresh was it? Collected within the last 72 hours. Why? Could it have been collected Monday night? The night Dorian supposedly died? A pause. Yes, if properly preserved. What if Dorian never died on Monday? What if he collected his blood, set up the fake body, arranged the funeral, and then left? What if he's been gone for 3 days? And we've all been investigating a death that never happened? Then the question becomes, why stage it at all? That's what I couldn't answer. Not then. Not standing in that garden with the ghost of a funeral around me and the roar of phantom jet engines still echoing in my mind. I went back inside and found the Ashford family exactly where I'd left them. I need to know something, and I need the truth. Did Dorian have any terminal illnesses? Any reason to believe he was dying? Vivian nodded slowly. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4, diagnosed 6 months ago. He refused treatment. The doctors gave him less than a year. And there it was, the final piece. Dorian Ashford was dying, so he decided to die on his own terms. Not wasting away in a bed, but vanishing into legend. He'd used his remaining time to orchestrate the perfect revenge. Not by killing his family, but by making them kill themselves with guilt and fear. He's not coming back, I said. He's gone. Really gone. The cancer would have spread by now. Wherever he jumped from that jet, he did it knowing he wouldn't survive long. This was his goodbye, his final act of control. So we just live with it. Nathan asked, with never knowing where he is or when he'll strike. He already struck. All of this was the strike. He made you confess to murder. He made you reveal your guilt to a police detective. He destroyed whatever piece you thought you'd found. I looked at each of them in turn. Whether I arrest you or not, you're already in prison. He made sure of that. I left the estate that night and never returned. The investigation officially closed as an unsolved theft of an aircraft and suspected insurance fraud. The fake body was listed as evidence of elaborate deception, but without a victim, there was no crime. Dorian Ashford was declared missing, presumed dead, and his fortune was frozen in probate hell for years. The family fell apart exactly as he'd planned. Sienna had a breakdown and entered psychiatric care. Garrett drank himself to death within 2 years. Nathan sold his shares and disappeared to Southeast Asia. Vivian still lives in the mansion, alone, waiting for a ghost that will never return. As for me, I think about that case every time I close my eyes. I think about the blood on those jet controls, fresh and impossible. I think about a dying man strapping on a parachute and jumping into the desert night, choosing his ending over letting fate choose for him. I think about the price of secrets and the weight of guilt and the terrible things people do to each other in the name of family. I've never told anyone the full story until now. The official report left out the confessions, the cancer, the elaborate staging. I buried those details because I couldn't decide if Dorian Ashford was a monster or a victim or both. He killed no one, but he destroyed everyone. He died without dying, escaped without leaving. And sometimes late at night I wonder if he really jumped from that jet at all, or if somewhere, in some desert compound with guards and privacy and whatever time the cancer left him, Dorian Ashford is watching his family destroy itself and smiling. So here's my question for you. If you knew you were dying, and you knew the people closest to you had killed someone you loved, would you seek justice through the law? Or would you take revenge by making them confess, then vanishing and leaving them to torture themselves with uncertainty forever? Is that justice? Or is it just another kind of murder, one that kills the soul instead of the body? Subscribe to the channel and leave your like for more stories of crimes, secrets of powerful families and investigations that no one dares to tell. Until the next case.